Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. We are here today to talk about a bunch of random excitement from the upcoming Ikoria set. If you're like me, you've been starved for details, okay? I've been looking for more information on this for a while, and we have a bunch today. Before we do that, I'm just gonna take a moment to mention, I put out a really excellent flavor style video yesterday that's also thematic for what's going on in the world right now. So you should go and check that out when we're done here. I mean, technically you could pause this and go and check it out if you want, but when the video's over, go ahead and check it out. I'll link it here at the end. And you know what? While I am here self-promoting, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. That'll protect you from viruses, all right? Hit that, click the like, click them. No, you don't pick one. Click the like. Anyhow, let us move in to the Ikoria-ness. What is going on here? Well, spoiler season does not start until next month. We're having a delayed spoiler season, unfortunately. Now, fortunately, Rosewater has actually come out and done something that I very, very much love. I like to be tantalized. I like to be teased. I know what you guys are thinking, but I'm talking about magic cards here, all right? So, Rosewater has come out and said, previews for Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths don't start until April 2nd. But I've been getting a lot of requests from people cooped up at home that are eager for any content. So I decided to do something I used to do all the time back in my column in The Duelist. I'm going to be giving you a marrow teaser where I give tiny hints of things to come. Note that I'm only giving you partial information. So everything we're going to go over can be found in Ikoria, but bear in mind, Rosewater is a tricksy little hobbit. So to give you an example of how he pulled the wool over our eyes before, he basically said that there were going to be 3 planeswalkers in Throne of Eldraine, where it was just like, you're going to get 3 planeswalkers in Throne of Eldraine, but he meant 3 planeswalker cards. But what happened was, we actually technically had 4 planeswalkers in Throne of Eldraine. You had Garruk, the Kenrith twins, and you had the, what's his name? How can I forget Oko? Good Lord, he had such an effect. How did I forget Oko for a second there? His name slipped my mind. I was probably just thinking about his sweet abs. Anyways, so we had 4 planeswalkers. How'd they pull that off? Well, they tricked us. They put the Kenrith twins together on one card, where before they had been on their own separate cards, and did them as the Royal Scions. So bear in mind that some of the information may make you think of one thing, but could turn out to be another. So we're going to explore each point on the list. I will bring my old man magic knowledge into it as much as possible to help give a little bit of guidance in terms of what it could be. But anyways, let us dive in. The first point on the list is Magic's 7th egg. Now, this has to be a creature. The reason that I know this is there are actually technically like 16 eggs in Magic. 10 of them are artifacts and don't have the egg type. 6 of them are creatures that have the egg type. And this specifically says Magic's 7th egg. So this essentially, as far as I understand, has to be a creature with the creature type egg. Now, creature types with egg follow a fairly similar concepting. They are all 0 power creatures. They're all 0 power creatures, and in a lot of cases, defenders. So you'll have a 0/2, a 0/3, and they will hatch under different circumstances. One of these is like an unegg that comes from an unset, but they will hatch under different circumstances. Like the dragon egg, for example, where if the dragon egg gets destroyed, if it goes to the graveyard, you create a 2/2 flying fire-breathing kind of token, right? So eggs historically in Magic have all been 0 power creatures. Most of them can't attack. Even the ones that can attack have 0 power, so who cares? So you can expect this to be a 0 power creature with defender from the onset. Now, what would be the conditions for it hatching is a good question. A lot of the time it's like the original egg was Rook egg, right? And that was something that hatched into a 4/4 Rook. And that was a pretty funky concept. I mean, it cost 4 mana to put out, which is a lot of mana. But at the same time, a 4/4 flyer was a huge deal back in the day. We're talking Arabian Nights time. So we've got a scenario where it's going to be an egg, but how big? Is this going to be Magic's biggest egg? Is that going to be the joke where it's basically like you've got an egg that's 0-10, for example, just give it some massive, massive toughness, which it makes it way harder to crack the egg. Like this is the egg of some kind of behemoth creature, because Ikoria is the Lair of Behemoths. So expecting some sort of giant creatures makes perfect sense. So the dragon egg is like 0-2, really easy to destroy. Rook egg, 0-3, really easy to destroy. All you have to do is use it as a blocking creature. Imagine them making an egg that has such a high toughness that you can't just use it to block. You have to have another way to get rid of the egg, but you get a bigger, better reward, right? That would make sense. Like you could end up with a massive creature coming out of the egg. I'm curious. I like these kind of curveballs, and honestly, I love teasers. I love like letting my brain run wild, because my first thought when I thought about Magic's seventh egg, I wasn't actually thinking about creatures. I was thinking about the artifact egg cycle from what is that? Is that Odyssey? Is that Invasion? I can't. Not Invasion. Onslaught? Probably Odyssey block, where they had these like eggs that made multicolored mana. But there are 10 different artifact eggs, going all the way back to Triassic egg, which was this funky sort of like put counters on it, then sacrifice the egg and put a creature from your hand into play, so you could actually have anything you wanted to hatch out of the egg. Either way, I'm very curious about what the egg is going to be. The next teaser point says, a card with the text 4 or more times this game. Now this card, not card I should say, but well, it is a card, but this concept says to me that we're looking at something along the lines of Approach of the Second Sun. I think that's what it's called. There's a white spell, and basically what happens is the first time you play it, you put it back in your deck. The second time you play it, you win the game, right? That's the deal. So it costs a crazy amount of mana to cost, and you have to wait for it to come back again. But when you do, you just win. So this could be a card that's an alternate win condition, because honestly, saying you need to have done something 4 or more times this game seems like a fairly big hurdle. But then, of course, I'm only comparing it to what already exists. If we want to take it to a smaller scale, you could have a creature with an activated ability that costs 1 or 2, like pay 1 mana. This creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It's like some kind of cocoon ability or something, right? And then after you've done the ability 4 times or more, it turns into the butterfly version or whatever. So it's like give this creature +0/+1, right? So it gets an extra toughness until end of turn. If you've done this 4 or more times this game, this card permanently becomes XX and is like, you know, this card turns into a 5/5 flying caterpillar or something. And it's like, not a caterpillar, sorry, a butterfly. So it starts out as a caterpillar, turns into a butterfly. So it could be a win con. It could just be something that triggers to make a creature bigger permanently, or it could be anywhere in that range, right? It could be any kind of permanent that has some kind of activated ability. It could also just be like, if you've attacked with creatures of like, if you've attacked with a 5/5 creature 4 or more times this game, it's like some enchantment, overwhelming force. As long as you've attacked with a combined power of 10 creatures or more 4 times this game, you win. There's all kinds of options for this. It gets my imagination churning, and I very much enjoy it. The next point on the list is a card with the text total power 10 or less. Now this is interesting because this could mean a number of things. This could be a creature destruction spell that is basically like, destroy the wieners, you know, because it's the land of behemoths. So it's like, you can destroy, it could be like a white wrath variant spell where you can destroy any number of creatures with total power 10 or less. Imagine that scenario where you could have a card like, let's say you have a wrath and it says destroy any number of creatures with total power 10 or less. Well, in that kind of a scenario, the egg that I just mentioned would be perfect because you could include destroying it in the wrath effect. And then, boom, like it doesn't even count towards the power total because it's got a power 0. You've just wiped out a bunch of their creatures while transforming your egg guy into a big beefcake. Now you can see, obviously, this is a lot of hypothetical, right? I'm making up a hypothetical card and having it interact with another hypothetical card I've made up. But that's part of the fun of these teasers. And this is what we get right now. This is all we're going to get from Magic for a bit. Like we got like 2 weeks roughly until spoilers hit. For me, there's a lot of there's a lot of imagination food here, and I am very much interested in what you guys have to say about this as well, because this is so wide open that there's so many interpretations, and there's definitely going to be things I haven't considered. So as I go through these, feel free to be down in the comments typing about them. There's nothing visually on the screen you need to be watching anyways. So get on down there and start sharing your ideas like point by point. Let's get into this. Let's make this something good. We're all stuck indoors anyways. Let's have a good time with it. So the total power 10 or less could be a destroy effect. It could be something to basically like you can combine these creatures together, although I mean that's probably too many creatures. I don't know exactly what mutate is going to be, but we do have mutate confirmed, and that's confirmed in one of these points going forward. So a card with the text total power 10 or less. It might actually be something along the lines of if creatures you control are total power 10 or less, then the card this is on, you know how gods aren't a god unless your devotion equals a certain amount? It could be the same kind of concept where you have a creature who's tiny, but he gains strength from other creatures. So if you have a total power 10 or less, he's a certain size. If you have more than that, he's bigger. There's so much that could be. These are wide open, which I very much enjoy. The next one is super exciting, honestly. As someone who loves big, beefy craziness, Magic's largest power and toughness granting aura. Now, for a sense of scale and perspective, the largest aura right now as it stands is Eldrazi Conscription. That costs 8 mana, gives the creature +10/+10, trample, and Annihilator 2. Now, that is a little bit over the top, and I don't know if anything else will come with the power boosting level of this enchantment, but it's going to have to beat a +10/+10. Now, bear in mind, this wording, like I said, he's tricksy. This could actually be a scenario where it's +0/+21 or something like that. The combination of power and toughness just has to exceed 20. That's the bar, but it doesn't say which. This could be something where it's +11/+11. It could be +20/+20, +30/+30. I don't expect it to go that high, but I wouldn't be surprised to see +15/+15, +20/+20, +10/+20, some insane number like that. And like I said, I love big, fat, beefy creatures. So this kind of an enchantment is right up my alley. And please, Papa, let it be green. That's what I want for my big green deck, man. I loved the M19's Prodigious Growth. Oh, dude, I would put that on a Giganosaurus and make a 17/17 Trampler. 17/17 Trampler, doesn't that just warm the heart? I love it. Absolutely love it. So that enchantment I'm super curious about that one. That is one of the things I'm most curious about. The next line that we have here is a card with the text, X is the number of times this creature has mutated. So I speculated before, based on the Surgeon General from the Unsanctioned, that mutate would in fact be in Ikoria. I have been proven right. Let me take a moment to be like, oh yeah, I was right. Very obvious, but I was right. Some people are like, no way, man. Either way, I nailed it. So now the question becomes, what is mutate? I mean, I speculated on it before. Is the mutation an ability based off of like each different kind of counter you add to this creature gives it an ability? Is it an ability to combine creatures together? I feel like it's just going to be like mutate into something stronger and bigger, but there could be a random aspect to the mutation as well in some cases, and I'm kind of informing that from a point later in the list as well. So I've got a little bit of information. I haven't given you guys that yet in terms of this point, but either way, it does confirm that mutate is definitely a mechanic on Ikoria, and I imagine that it will lead to additional abilities like flying, first strike, all this sort of stuff based on the mutations. So that's very cool. I am curious about that. Next point, Magic's third and fourth card with, in brackets, reminder text. 0 is even, reminder text. So this is a case where it, like a lot of cards, well, I shouldn't say a lot because this is only the third and fourth card that has this reminder text. Although they did make cards like this, like that use these kind of effects before they put that kind of reminder text on there. But either way, these tend to be on cards that say pick odd or even, and your opponent can't play costs of the type that you've picked. So if you pick even, your opponent can't play even casting costs. Or it could be something like that's something that already exists. It could be something along the lines of creatures with even or odd power can't attack, can't block, can't activate abilities, can't mutate. Those are the sort of effects that you can see with the 0 is even. So it's curious to see if these are going to be like choose odd or even, or if it's going to be randomized. It's a very interesting concept. Or if it's just an arbitrary card that says every creature with an even casting cost gets destroyed. Like that is also a possibility. These are so wide open that there's so many choices. And I'm obviously not going to ramble off every single possibility that I can think of for every one of these points, but it definitely is fuel for the imagination. The next point, 3 cards with the text, different names. So this is a situation where you will, the text will say cards with different, so it could be like, give X creatures with different names plus X plus 0 until end of turn. Destroy 3 creatures with different names, where it's like you can't destroy. It's, I don't know. I mean, what would a concept of like maybe a card like trophy hunting, where trophy hunting is destroy 3 creatures with 3 different names, right? Because you're hunting for trophies. So you're only going to take you only need the head or horns or whatever the trophy is from one of each species. So you're not going to keep hunting the same sort of thing. So that's a scenario where I could see there being cards saying like we care about different names. But either way, it's not something you see frequently in Magic, in all honesty, the different name concept. So I like that. After that, we've got 12 different types of counters. Now, bear in mind, some people are knee-jerk reaction going, why are they putting so many counter spells in Magic? That is you using the short form, right? Counters, different types of counters. To me, that could theoretically reference counter spells, but more likely it is referencing the type of counters that go on creatures. And actually, we'll see a clarification that makes me feel more strongly about that. Bear in mind, again, Rosewater is a tricksy hobbit, so he totally could be pulling the wool over our eyes. But to me, this would be 12 different kinds, different types of counters. Even if you pick 3 or 4 counter spells out of that, that leaves 8 different types of counters, at least, that go on cards. You know, you've got like things like +1/+1 counters. Those are what we're used to. But there are a number of other style counters that have existed in Magic's history. And maybe each different type of mutation will have its own particular counters, or maybe there will be mutation counters. There is a lot of possibilities for these different types of counters. I'm curious about that. Actually, the next point says a card that says choose a kind of counter at random. So that actually more strongly leans in towards these counters being the type of counters that go on cards as opposed to being counter spells. Because he doesn't say 12 different incidences of the word counter on cards, which is what you would see on counter spells. It's literally 12 different types of counters, and a card that says choose a kind of counter at random. Now that to me makes me feel like, and again, this is very limited information, but it does make me feel like Mutate could have particular types of counters that go with it. Blight counter, first strike counter, trample counter, boost counter, and they all have their own, like a first strike counter gives first strike, a flying counter gives flying. Like they did say they were going with an ambitious mechanic. So you could have a creature that has a kind of uncontrolled mutation where you randomly determine which type of mutation counter goes on them, determining what kind of power they get. And you could just end up getting the same kind of mutations over and over. So they could make an undercosted creature that has a range of abilities, but you can't pinpoint which abilities you want to give it. So it's cheaper to activate, and if luck's on your side, you can come out better. Kind of the same way that Haktos has that luck element in the way that he selects a random casting cost, right? So that is definitely a possibility to me. Again, I love how much fuel for the imagination this is. It's a lot of fun being able to look at it and speculate and go, you know what? I'm probably wrong here. I probably am. The next point is a card with the text remove 8 foreshadow counters. What would that be? More than likely, I imagine it'd be some kind of like, I'm going to make up a card right now about like with this kind of a concept. I would say like slow demise or impending doom, impending destruction, impending devastation, where basically it's like every turn, put a foreshadow counter on this. And whenever you put a foreshadow counter on this, target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. And then once you get like up to 8, you remove 8 and it does the big wiping out every creature effect. Like every time you put a foreshadow counter on this, target creature gets -1/-1, -2/-2, or -X, where X is the number of foreshadow counters on it. Remove 8 foreshadow counters. All creatures get -8, -8, or -10, -10. Some kind of crazy like board wiping. It could also be like an alternate win con, where the foreshadow counter is just like draw a card or gain 2 life, or just some like minor effect leading up to the big effect. The same way like that, you know, there's Midnight Clock, right? Midnight Clock is like, put a counter on it. Once the clock strikes 12 with 12 counters, get this big effect of a brand new hand of cards and everything. I could see it being that style of card. And I mean, I do like the flavor that's inherent in the term foreshadow counters. That's a thumbs up for me. After that, we've got a cycle that players have been asking us to make for over 10 years. This is too vague for me to have any guesses. I'm going to be real. I can't think of a cycle at all that people have been asking for over and over. Now, obviously, from Rosewater's perspective, he gets a lot of letters from people. Well, not letters, really, emails. I'm old. He gets a lot of emails and like other messages from players. And when they're not going, "You ruined Magic," they're asking them what they want out of the game. Like, I want this, make this, why haven't you made this? So we're getting a cycle that has been coming for a decade now, which does make me curious. And I'm sure when I see it, I'll be like, oh, I get it now. But I literally have 0 guesses for this cycle, like none whatsoever. So if you have a hint, even the slightest tickle in your mind as to what that could be, put that in the comments right now. Let me know, because I am genuinely curious. Out of all the points that I looked at, that was the one to me that was the most going, I wonder, but I don't have much to theorize about. So in addition, Ikoria has creatures with the following creature types. We're getting a dinosaur turtle. I don't feel like there's like, that doesn't feel too exciting. Turtle dragon is way cooler to me than dinosaur turtle. Dinosaur turtle, meh. Shark beast? I mean, what's Sharkdo crab, right? Like, pretty, it's shark beast, okay, whatever. Yeah, demon kraken? Yes, that's amazing. That's amazing. You take something vicious and evil and vile and powerful like a demon and combine it with essentially what is more of a normal kind of creature. Like a kraken is just a larger version of an everyday regular creature. You know what I mean? Like a demon is otherworldly and has all kinds of evil power, and a kraken is just insanely powerful, gigantic aquatic creature. Put them together. Actually, didn't Nicol Bolas fight a demon kraken way back in the day? That's just such an evocative creature type that I'm like, yes, I like it. It excites me a lot more than shark beast or dinosaur turtle. All right. Now these are definitely going to be personal taste ones. Your tastes are going to vary from mine because we all have different things that light our brains up. Right. The next one is a lot of fun too. An elemental otter. You know, I like otters. They're the cute little furry water guys. Hey, look at me. I'm going to lay on my back and here's my nice little belly out in the sun and I'm holding my little baby up here on my chest. Otters are adorable. And the idea of an elemental otter just sounds like such a cool pet. You know what I mean? Like imagine being a planeswalker and you're like, yo, I just found out they have elemental otters on Ikoria. I'm going to Ikoria and I'm catching one of those otters as a pet. That's a cool concept. What kind of element? Is it a water element otter? Is it a fire element otter? That's, oh dude, that's really, really cool. Really, really cool. Now, the next one is Brushwag. This one's going to throw you for a loop if you're not an old school Magic player. A Brushwag is at least the original Brushwag, which was from the Mirage block, probably Mirage itself. It's either Mirage or Visions that it's from, right? And it is a cat with like, you know those tumbleweeds you see in Wild West movies? Picture a tumbleweed wrapped around a brush, like around like kind of like a mountain lionish kind of cat, but not like super mountain lionish. And you'll have a Brushwag. And the flavor text of the Brushwag talks about how a giant like popped the brushwag into his mouth, and the brushwag went bloop and blorped out, and the giant was like, ah! Like, it's brushwag has been a fun and weird card, and it would be absolutely amazing if that creature that we've seen as like the flagship artwork creature, that gigantic hulking horned beast with the spikes and everything on it back, turned out to be a mutated brushwag. That would be really, really cool. I mean, I'm cool with brushwag either way. I'm genuinely excited and curious to see what the brushwag is. So you can go and take a look at an image of brushwag if you don't know. It's worth taking a look at. It's from the time when Magic was more wild and zany and all over the place, and they had like a less homogenous style of artwork and concepting. And so the brushwag was just this weird outlier where you're like, what even is this? But it added to the feeling of the like it gives different planes their own kind of definition and personality. So I like brushwag. Then we've got Hellion Horror, and I mean, Hellions are these gigantic like worm beasts that bust up out of the earth and have crazy tentacles and giant spawning mouths. So they already feel kind of like horrors. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, that feels like almost saying the same thing twice. They do have kind of a different meaning in Magic, but still. It's like, it's another one that I go, eh. And then a Nightmare Squirrel. And it says in brackets, yes, a squirrel in a standard legal set. A Nightmare Squirrel. I'm guessing it is probably black-green and horrendous. Just a gigantic, like, awful-looking squirrel that is not going to be friendly or happy. That's what I'm guessing. Because they did a squirrel before that was like this gigantic Croson thing, and it did not look friendly. So I'm curious to see that one. And, oh, there's a little addendum here at the end. Actually, I didn't see this before. There's actually 13 different types of counters. Rosewater says he searched for counter, and Planeswalkers don't actually say counter on them, so that's 12 not counting loyalty counters. Okay, so it's 13 counters if you want to be technical, and include loyalty counters from Planeswalkers as well. So that's the entire list of teasers, and I'm always interested in your guys' thoughts, but today, more than average, I want to know what you guys think about all these different points. Feel free to go on at length in the comments. And if other people have ideas that you like, let them know. Or if you can expand on their ideas. I enjoy very much the interactivity in the comment section. So thanks for coming by. Let me know what you guys think about all this. This has increased my hype for Ikoria. And now I'm just sitting there going, oh, I want the cards. I want the cards. Give Daddy what he needs. We got a couple weeks for that. In the meantime, we'll continue to have fun. As I said at the beginning of the video, like, subscribe, do all that goodness. Go and watch yesterday's video because it just kind of got passed over and it deserves the attention. It's a fun one. You will enjoy it. I guarantee it. It's a nice flavor romp. So I'll link that video here at the end. Go check it out. Thanks to my patrons and channel members for supporting what I do. It does mean a lot, especially in the lean times that we're living in right now, because things out in the world are a little crazy. So it's nice to have this space where we can hang out together and have a good time. I will see all of you very soon. And in the meantime, again, go watch yesterday's video.